We have a guy that's been played by his former friends, and he goes through a lot of stuff that us guys are dealing with um, today in 2026. So
Us, even with all the chaos in the dating market, what's become very apparent is that a lot of men don't even want friendships anymore. And a lot of people who have friends, or at least think they have a big social circle, really just have a lot of acquaintances around them. People that don't even know what it entails to even be in a genuine friendship. And I want to start off with a quick story about a couple friends of mine who I still talk to regularly, and someone that they know who they had grown up with, knew since he was like 3 years old. And we would normally, as a group, go to restaurants kind of in the south end of the city we're in, but we would regularly go there probably twice or three times a week. And this friend of theirs normally doesn't show up, but every now and then he'll come through. And it was his birthday a number of months ago. And he had wanted us to go and hang out closer where he lives. Understandably, we were doing it for him. It was his birthday party. So he wanted us to go hang out and meet up at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Federal Way. If anyone's familiar with Federal Way, Washington, but it is about 40 minutes south of where we live and normally would hang out. But we agreed to it, and obviously we were looking forward to celebrate his birthday. He was a little bit younger than us. He was turning, I think, 27 or 28. And when we had gotten there, complete no show. He didn't give us any heads up. We did talk to him. I guess my friend had talked to him earlier in the day, and the last thing he heard from him was he was on the bus heading there. So we had arrived there. My friend tried to call him, didn't pick up the phone, didn't show up. We just went on with our night as usual, ate food there. And of course, I even told my friends, I said, look, regardless of him flaking or not, I still enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Hopefully, everything with him is okay because you never know. Things can come up. I understand emergencies at least. At the very least, if it's not an emergency, or if you have the ability, even if it is an emergency, have the decency at least tell us that you can't make it so we're not driving 40 minutes out of our way to go somewhere we normally wouldn't go. But regardless of all that, went on with our night, and I was curious as to what would happen. My friends were a little bit more upset than I was because I think they've really were the ones that knew him and set up the whole thing. I told them I was just glad to hang out with you guys, but I guess from what they had told me was he had said something along the lines of, "Oh, my phone died and this and that," which what was so funny is during the time we were there at the restaurant, my friend was checking his phone and he was actually active on Instagram at the time while we were at the restaurant. His status on Instagram was that he was active. So that was a flat out lie. Now, where it takes a twist is what we came to find out was because we would go to these other restaurants, like I mentioned, closer to where we live. And there was a girl in that restaurant that a friend of mine had actually liked and was talking to at the time. So you guys can kind of see where this is going, unfortunately. But while we were at the Federal Way restaurant, which he sent us to, knowing we would not be where we would normally hang out that night, this guy had actually gone to that restaurant and tried to talk to this waitress that my friend was talking to and liked at the time. Also, he could have her to himself or get the girl before he does. And not to go too off topic, but that's something I've seen which is just so ridiculous. This whole idea of survival of the fittest, every man for themselves. If you call yourself a man, if you're in a friendship and that's the way you conduct yourself, I mean, that's just lowest of the low in terms of behavior. There's
yeah, most the common issue, well, the common cause for guys to break up their friendship is normally over a girl. They normally fighting over a girl. Hell, you got grown ass men still doing it to this day, especially rappers. Not to bring them up, but athletes is like, bro, y'all too old for that. So that's a common issue um, to the end of a male friendship is normally is going to be a woman. So um, not surprised, but you think they would do that when they're like teenagers? Now you got guys who's doing this until their last breath. So age doesn't have a limit on that. I mean, these guys is doing that in their 50s, 60s, so forth. It's just what it is. So used to go out partying a lot, and that was kind of common, But back then it just came with it, right? Like you just trying to get the most girls, or you're trying to get the prettiest girl, whatever the case may be, and then the guys you with, it's pretty common that somebody or probably all of them trying to fight for that one chick. I would never like that. I was like, man, listen, if she don't like me, then I'll try to. Uh, she'll like one of us right out the group. That's how I always carry myself. And you had some who wasn't think like that, but those were the ones who never had jobs, who never had like a couple of them that didn't have jobs. We always look out for them when we would go out. So that was pretty common. It's normally it was they would do that. It's like they have nothing. It's like they don't have nothing to lose. They don't have no car. They don't have no job, and let alone they have their own place. So not say you had to have all of them back at that time, but if you had two out the three, you winning. So they didn't have anything. On top of that, every time they want to do something, we had to always look out for them, which we wasn't complaining. But at that time, we wanted them to be around or whatever. So it is what it is. But nobody crying over that little chump change that we was spending on them. No big deal. But that was pretty common. They would normally do that. So because they didn't have the opportunity like we did to go get girls or whatever. So they didn't have any money. They didn't have a vehicle. They didn't have their own place. And on top of that, they barely uh, had kept their cell phone on. That's what it is. So when you're starving, it be like that. So yeah, you just gotta be mature enough, man. I never was like that guy that was oh yeah, I'm gonna get up for you. I'm gonna steal his girl. Like never was like that. So that's just me though.
There's nothing in that behavior that shows you're a friend, regardless of who it is.
From SkinCeuticals, new PTOX cream improves skin smoothness up to 30%. Discover now.
How much could you save by switching your car insurance to Allstate? Well, let's say this is you.
You don't do that to someone who's supposed to be your friend. Now, we all found this out. And of course, my first instinct was like, well, he wasn't really a friend of mine to begin with. I really only associated with him because you guys would invite him. You've known him since you were growing up. But I was about done with the guy. I had no interest in continuing to hang out with him. And another one of my friends was too. But one of them still talked to him. As to the reasoning, I don't know why. He explained, he made a fair point that he'd known him since he was a kid, since he was growing up. So he's like family to him. I understand that. But at the same time, the same thing I said with relationships and dating. Part of self-respect, self-care, is not surrounding yourself with negative people. Having self-respect is not letting people disrespect you and get away with it. And from what I understand, this is not the first time this guy's done something like this. So we keep hanging out without the guy, and eventually he kind of comes back around. We're at the restaurant we normally would hang out with near South Seattle. And this guy tried to punk me in front of some waitress to try to make himself look good or show off. Again, ridiculous behavior. Lowest of the low behavior, trying to act like you're some big shot, trying to walk all over the people that you're supposed to be friends with. You're not a friend to me, I'll tell you that right now. Anyone who does that to someone I know or to me in particular, I'm going to be done with you. And I'm going to speak my mind about it too, which I'm going to get into. Again, a big problem I see is people wanting to just one up another and show off in friendships. That's not a friendship. So when we were at this restaurant, long after that happened, again, I was over the whole thing with the birthday party. Not my idea to invite him, though. Keep that in mind. But the waitress was over at the table, and he was kind of talking to the waitress and flirty, whatever you want to call it. And then he says something that, oh, don't do that. He's going to get mad. Saying like I'd get mad. Like I would care about that waitress talking to this guy. And keep in mind, this wasn't the waitress or I was not the one who had liked the waitress. But
The one thing that get people like mad the fastest is not caring. Like in his situation, it's like the girl like you and you don't like the girl. They literally get mad at you because they want you to. They also want you to like the girl because they like her. So I did that a couple times. I'm like, bro, like I don't want her. And they get mad at you because you don't like her too. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's like if you like her, go ahead and go after her, man. I'm not stopping you. So it's strange how that happens, but like a woman is used to turning down guys, but she's also not used to being turned down. So when you run across some kind of females, you turn them down, their whole world is flipped upside down. So that normally what happens. They want to compete. It's like, bro, I don't want her. You can have her. Like, and they get mad at you. Like, whoa, why you don't like her, bro? She ain't my type. So, but you'll have it. It's pretty common sucker stuff to where, yeah, I would talk to her, but you gonna get mad. Well, I'm like, bro, I don't like her, bro. Like, what you talking about? So that does happen. But you just at the end of the day, you can't have a fragile ego. Because you're gonna come across guys who have fragile egos, which is very sissy like, but that does happen. But you can't be that guy to have a fragile ego because women are paying attention even when you think they're not paying attention. So if you're a very observant person, you know what I'm talking about. So don't have no fragile ego when somebody try to crack jokes on you, this and that. Me personally, that's not your friend if he's trying to shame you in front of females. That's also a sucker trait that happens a lot. You go on the party because they trying to compete, so they're gonna try to shame you. They're gonna try to throw some dirt on your name. They happened to me plenty of times, but it always came from the broke boys who ain't have nothing. 'Cause remember, they starving, they ain't got nothing to lose, so they'll snake you or whatever for a female because they don't have that many options like you do. That female, if they do, the female that they do get, they got to hold on to her for dear life because they don't have the options that you have. So you got to keep that in mind. Like, well, you know, he probably ain't no female. I don't know how long. So he get her, he gonna hold on to it as long as possible. So don't even trip on it. Just keep it playing and keep it moving. So that's common. You see that with a lot of weak dudes. Weak dudes do that. How you hanging out with somebody, your homeboy, you making fun of them around some females. Never do that, man. If you come across somebody like that, let them know. You know what I mean? You ain't got to make a big scene out of it. You pull them to the side or whatever, but just make sure you correct them. But they ain't your homeboy, man. Now, some, they make mistakes. That's the whole point of having a relationship. Not everything going to be perfect, but y'all got to be able to talk to each other, without getting all violent or caught up in y'all feelings. That's a real friend to where y'all can talk about, you can let somebody know that they did wrong and y'all still going to be friends afterwards. But when you come across guys like that, they ain't your friends, man, because they gonna do it every chance they get them. Then, especially when you're not around, they gonna throw more dirt on your name. And then, of course, typically females, somewhat the smart ones, they know what's up, but the ones who just don't have the experience, they won't be able to notice the sense of hater that that dude in your friend group is a hater. But the smart ones, they know because they've been around the block plenty of times. They know, okay, this dude, he's just jealous of the other guy. But you have a lot of females who just automatically assume all guys are friends. Like, just because you hang out with them, oh, y'all best friends, y'all like each other. That's not the case. You got a lot of guys that hang out with each other. They be hating, you know what I mean? So only the smart females know how the game goes. The gullible ones, they gonna believe the guy who's talking crap about you instead of them find out their own self. At the end of the day, no matter what somebody tell you about another person, if you really care, you find out on your own. Now you can take the advice they give you, but don't automatically believe somebody. Just take it with a grain of salt. And then at the end of the day, if you want to know how she is, find out on your own. But just be mindful. You do have people that's looking out for you, but a lot of people also ain't looking out for you. They jealous of you. So this is what I say. Keep that in mind. Like, don't just automatically believe them, but just take the information they gave you, and then, like I said, if you want to, you got to find out yourself at the end of the day. That's all I'm saying.
For some reason, he wanted to put it on me. He wanted to point the finger at me and try to punk me and make a joke where I would be the punchline. So after that happened, I was a little bit caught off guard because, like I said, I don't associate with people who are disrespectful like that. But I had put my hand on him after that waitress left and told him, I was pointing him straight up and looked him in the eye, and I told him, in a way that's that I can say on here. I told him, do not try that with me again, and other things that I don't really need to get into, just because it wouldn't, I guess, be necessary for the point of this that I'm trying to make. But he understood the memo, and he never did that again. But my point being is, why would people subject themselves to associate with people like this? I've talked to that friend of mine that he's close with. The two friends I normally hang out with, they're very close people. I talk to them all the time. Even one of them I was talking to earlier this evening. But I've had this conversation with him quite a few times about, why are you still associating with this person. They've shown you their true colors. They've shown you what they are going to do, especially when there's a woman involved. Times I've seen betrayals a lot of the time happen between guy friends, usually is over a girl that he likes, or a girl that, even in some cases I've seen a girl that he's in a relationship with, a girl that he recently broke up with. Again, ridiculous. But with all that kind of stuff, right? Like I said, I'm not at all afraid to distance myself from people. Throughout my life, I've cut off many people because of having self-respect. I'm not going to let someone disrespect me like that. And again, I did mention something to him. I did confront him on it. And the few times that I've seen him since then, like I said, it's not my idea to invite him, but that should not happen, and it has not happened since. But I want to make this point because I think a lot of people just don't understand why so many men do not want friends anymore, because they're tired of the disrespect, and ultimately why this kind of disrespect has become so much more normal. I don't know if people even realize it a lot of the time or not, but whether it's intentional. But I've seen a lot of people where you'll even having just casual conversation with them, and they'll say something that is just out of line, that is very disrespectful, very rude, whether they meant it or not. Even recently, I was talking to someone I've known since high school. We were at the gym, and he made some comment about how he doesn't like the job he's at. He's working fast food. There's no shame in work, by the way. I'm going to get into kind of other aspects of that.
With the American Express Platinum Card, you can access over $3,500 in value each year.
But he had made some comment about how he wants to quit that job. And I said something along the lines that I was looking for something I could just do part-time. And he was like, oh, you should do that. And I said, sure, fine. And then he made a comment saying, oh, I think I'm too good for that job, for working fast food. So it's like, you think you're too good for that, but you think that I'm what? Just good enough? Like, again, whether it was intentional or not, and if you guys think I'm overthinking the comment, let me know. But I don't think people realize sometimes even what they say, because the disrespect has become so normal. You even look at a lot of what people look up to nowadays, and it is just disrespectful behavior. A lot of these social media, really, characters that you see, which I find so wild, is that people will be more interested in learning the background of some influencer or athlete and their story of their life versus their own friends and people they know, even their own family in some cases. I think a lot of the time people just have people around for the sake of not being bored or something like that. Because I'll tell you right now, people like that, I have no, I have no reluctancy to just get out of my life. Life is too short to spend on people like that.
Yeah, I watched a video about a guy. He had a neighbor and single mom. His dad left him. It don't matter, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. White, white guy, and then his neighbor was white as well. But what happened was he saw that, he saw how the family was breaking up. So his dad literally abandoned his son and his mama. So he got to talking to his mom, and she was like, "Yeah, my son, he's not doing so good in school, whatever." And he extended his hand. He's like, "Oh, well, I'll help him in school, and what's going on?" So, well, he's not doing good. He's not doing good at school. He's always getting in trouble. He needs to find a job, yada yada yada. So he literally took the kid under his wing, and he helped him find a job. He was his mentor the whole night. He literally got him straight. So anyway, I think it was like a neighbor or something, or like a waitress or something like that. And anyway, he was talking to this lady, and as time went on, he'll check up on him, make sure he's doing okay or whatever like that. But he literally helped him get a job. He bought him work boots and the whole nine. But anyway, as time went on, he checked up on him every now and then, make sure he was doing good. So one day, the lady that he was talking to, he was trying to get to know, trying to get to know. It was on talking stages, and she told him, say, hey, you know that guy that you always be hanging around with, the kid, and she was like, yeah. He said, well, he inboxes me every so often on Facebook, and she was like, I don't know what's going on, but I just wanted to tell you, like he constantly inboxes me on Facebook, trying to get my number, this and that. And he was like, okay, so that guy was so pissed over what happened, like that dude literally stabbed him in the back. So what this guy is saying right now is the same thing what happened to the other guy. He's like, man, you over here helping people out, kindness of your heart, how he's saying, I ain't had to help him, all this stuff like that. He just started. He was angry because he got, dude stabbed him in the back. Said I did everything for this little kid. He not even my kid. And I treated him like a son, and then he did this to me. So that lets you know again. He didn't appreciate it. He didn't respect what the guy did for him. But the fact that you were do some slimy stuff like that let you know again the guy's starving. He was feeling himself like, oh, I got a job. I got some money in my pocket. Now he want to go after the girls, but he went about it the wrong way. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? But that's how they act, especially if it's a young boy. That's how you know a father is not in their life, because they'll do stuff like that. Especially somebody, they always do it at a young age like that. It's like, bro, like you had guidance, but you don't respect the man enough to just stay in your own lane. So he crossed the line with that, and then of course the guy was spiteful. He was like, oh, I'm never going to help nobody ever again, yada yada yada, which he has every right to feel, to feel that way. And at the end of the day, no one owes you anything, right? So the fact that he actually did that out of the kind of his heart for that kid to turn around and try to push up on the woman that he was trying to get to know, that lets you know everything right there. That's why nobody wants to help anybody no more. And you have some people, but a lot of people just they turn into their villain that they never wanted to be, because you had people that bitch you that you helped out. So it be like this sometimes, man. I helped somebody out before, they owed me some money, and to this day never reached out to me for the money, none of that like that. So you gotta understand, like, there's nothing wrong with helping people, but you can't help everybody. And then on top of that, if you do help somebody, you can't keep helping them. There's no such thing as, you can't just give them unlimited handouts. Like, can't do that. Like I say, anytime after the first time, it's a problem. So that favor turns to a problem real quick. You just can't keep giving out favors like that, man. So at the end of the day, you don't have to help anybody. I don't care how much money you make or whatever. You don't have to help anybody. No one, you don't owe anybody anything. So, but if you do want to help people, just be very selective of who you help. And at the end of the day, if it comes down to money, be prepared to not get it. I tell people all the time, the fastest way you can gain someone's trust is to borrow money from them and pay them back. That's the quickest way you're going to gain trust from anybody. Because at the end of the day, they ain't have to do that. Now, you would start off somewhere as $20 or whatever like that, but that's the quickest way to get respect from anybody is to pay, is to borrow money and pay them back. Keep your word. So a lot of relationships fall apart because of that. Because somebody let somebody, their friend or family member borrow some money, and then they stiff them. And then instead of paying them back, they over here spending money on this and doing that, and it's pretty crazy. So in the life I'm in right now, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm good. But if you know someone that's willing to help you out financially, do right by them and pay them back, and you'll forever, have the respect from that individual. Because at the end of the day, they ain't had to help you. So
Now, with all that stuff, I've also had very good people in my life, and people I still keep close now to this day. But what I want to say too is friendship, brotherhood, camaraderie is so important that when I see stuff like that, to me it's harder to watch than the dating chaos, the dating climate, the dating market nonsense. There was a friend of mine a number of years ago who I had mentioned in a previous video, but unfortunately, very sadly, passed away at the age of 30, unexpectedly. And I had gotten that news at 10:30 at night. I remember actually my friend Dev, who is on YouTube as well, called me and told me the news. But a few days before he had passed away, I remember he had texted me saying, "Hey man, let's go to the gym at 3 o'clock." And me being young and reckless and not going to sleep at a normal time, I missed the workout. I wasn't able to hang out with him. I wasn't able to go work out with him. This was one of the last times I talked to him before he passed away. And if I would have known that he was going to pass away in some reality, alternative, whatever you want to call it, yes, I would have been there to hang out with him. You best bet I would have made time to hang out with him, because that was one of the last times I would have been able to.
And that's the regret a lot of people have. Like, oh, if I would have known. I mean, yeah, but you can't. Now he's adding weight to his shoulders, right? Stuff like that happens all the time. That's the regret everybody deals with when, they had argument with a loved one and something tragic happened to them. Matter of fact, I had a customer. His mom was in a fatal accident, and a cop came home. Was coming home. Well, was coming from a bar, drunk. I tell you guys all the time, no matter what they do, they don't mean they perfect. Preacher, teacher, a police officer, a judge, it don't matter, because they all do dirt. Not all of them, but it don't matter what profession you're in. That doesn't make you a perfect person. So just because you're in a higher position in society doesn't mean that you're a good person. There's a lot of criminals, and at the lower level, middle level, and upper level. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, the guy officer was going home, leaving the bar drunk. He was intoxicated. He was drinking and driving, and before the mom left the house, she was getting ready to leave to go out to go party. When he was a little kid when it happened, he was doing everything he could to keep his mom from going out. I don't know what it was, but he didn't want his mom to go out that night. So he got mad at her and said some stuff to her, and then she ended up going out anyway. And then lo and behold, that drunk officer ended up, taking her life. He ran like a stop sign or whatever. He ended up just taking her life, and she passed away instantly. So when word got, when he got the information, of course, kid is hitting by his mom. They just destroyed him. So he's an adult now. He's in his 30s. And when he was telling me that, he literally started crying. I'm like, man, I told him, bro, I understand what you're going through. And he wanted to get his revenge. I'm like, that sounds like the right thing to do, because the officer, it doesn't happen to the officer. Then they said that they just took away his T license or whatever, so he could no longer be an officer. But they didn't charge him with nothing. They just took away his license, and that's it. He could no longer be a police officer, but they didn't charge him with nothing. So he got away scot-free. And he didn't, his mom didn't get the justice that she deserves, so he dealing with some demons, I'm going to say that. But even still, like, I think he said he was like 8 years old when that happened. The guy in his 30s, and he's still dealing with that. So you'll never get over that situation. But he was upset on top of that because he was mad at his mom. He was yelling at her and told her stuff that he didn't. He was talking out of anger. I said, man, you can't hold on to that. You was a little kid at the time. I know you didn't mean that. Your mama knows you didn't mean that, so don't hold on to that. So it's just one of them things like, oh, I wish. I understand it. I understand it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to change anything. The fact that, you even had a mom. It's sad to say, she was taken away from you at a very young age, but the fact that you do have memories of your mom, that'll help you get over that. But, he dealing with a lot. He dealing with a lot, man. So don't hold on to that. Oh, if I would have known. Don't do that to yourself, man. Don't, because you don't deserve that. So.
You see what I'm saying? Where people don't understand this lack of decency, this lack of kindness. You never know when someone might be out of your life, friend or family.
Auto insurance all seems the same until it's time to use it. With USAA, it's easy to file claims, schedule repairs, and access roadside assistance right through your app. Or you could take your chances somewhere else. Get a quote today.
So when I see this kind of behavior between people that are supposed to be friends, it's just ridiculous. There's even times where I've had urges, and I'll be upfront about this, urges to just cut everyone off. to just ghost everyone. And where that comes from is being burned in the past by a lot of people when I was younger. I don't think it's healthy to think that way. It's luckily not a thought that's come up recently. But every now and then I feel like that. And with the whole thing with brotherhood and excuse me, and camaraderie, is when you look around nowadays and you see so many people just struggling in so many different avenues. Like when I'm at the grocery store, for example, the other day, I like to eat, ground beef, fruit, things I normally get. And I'm just doing laps around the grocery store, looking at the tags, thinking that somehow it's going to magically just get cheaper. And it doesn't get cheaper. And then having people who are not going to uplift you or have your best interests and want you to succeed. Like there's been many times where I've talked to people about starting a business, right? Collaborating on something. And you guys probably can relate to this, I imagine. Where you've had these ideas with people, but it never amounts to anything because either someone's paranoid, people don't trust one another, or they don't have the best interest of the people around them to begin with, so they have this kind of crab in a bucket mentality where they don't want to see the people around them succeed. They don't want to see the people around them succeed. And I understand too, there are times where certain conversations are harder to have in regards to helping people, but are necessary. They're necessary. And for example, with this friend of mine who did pass away unexpectedly, he was doing things that he should not have been doing. I'll put it that way. And it does revolve around the gym.
Yeah, I had my professor tell me your future is going to be based off the friends you keep. So at the time I only had one, and I would always come up with ideas about, how to make more money, start a business or some kind of side hustle, something like that. And he would always turn all of them down. So I already knew, this wasn't going to last. It lasted for, a good while. I met him I was in 11th grade or something like that. So I met him in high school all the way until, our late 30s. Even though he was older than me, but he did terrible in school. But anyway, he never finished on top of that. But yeah, he was older than me, but I met him in high school, and I was a grade above him, but he was older than me. And he would always turn down all my ideas. I'm like, bro, like, you don't want to get out of this rut of just being broke all the time. So he hardly went to work. He was always getting fired, always quitting. So you never just hold down a job long term. He would do random stuff. He'll pay off a car, and the one car he had, he literally paid it off. It wasn't nothing wrong with the car. The car was in pristine condition. So he finally paid it off, and the day he paid it off, he ended up wrecking it. That's what I mean. You have people that's all their lives is being chaotic, unorganized, dysfunctional, to where if they actually get a chance to be out of that space, like to be in a different space, they don't know how to handle it, and they'll self-sabotage. So when he did that with the car, I'm like, that's all I need to know. So as time went on, he just started getting worse and worse and worse. So I'm like, man, I don't want to keep working the gym 9 to 5, not going nowhere. I want to make 6 figures. You know what I mean? I want to be financially successful. I don't want to be poor all my damn life. So he didn't want that. He wanted to be poor all his life. He found ways to blow money. On top of that, he barely go to work. So as time went on, he became a terrible person, and he started acting funny and this and that, and which I did pick up throughout the time we was hanging out. But I just, I didn't really pay it no mind. But as he started getting older, it got worse to the point where, like, okay, bro, I'm good. You said what you had to say. So I went on ahead and just left. I didn't argue. I didn't fight him. And to this day, I just don't worry about it no more. Even though we hung out for a long time, and it is what it is, man. Like, it sucked how it ended, but I'm not going to allow myself to be with a loser, and you're getting worse each and every year. You don't want to get out this rut. So it is what it is, man. You can't help somebody who don't want to help themselves. So yeah, I've been around people like that. They're very small-minded. They get intimidated by you because you want to be a successful individual, At the end of the day, I hear this all the time from rich people. Poor people are poor because they choose to be, and you're right. So everybody got the same 24 hours in a day, and not saying we're gonna have the same lifestyle, but if you're able to, you're mobile. You know, there's nothing wrong with you. You can find a way to get out the rut. Like I said, if you're making 85,000 a year, which isn't hard. I mean, you get you a job that's probably paying you what, I don't know, 40,000 or something like that. Find something to do to make the other 40,000. But if you're lazy, nothing's ever good is gonna come your way. You're the same people that complain, but you spend 10 hours a day watching TV, Monday through Sunday. But you want to complain about doing this or doing that when you literally just waste 10 hours a day. And that's the ones who have a job. You probably don't even have a job, so you literally just wasting your whole life every day, not doing anything productive. So you do have people like that. They do get mad at you because you want to do better. You want a newer car. You want more money. You want to travel. You want to wear, buy better clothes. You want to talk to the pretty girls instead of the overweight, ugly girls. They get jealous of you, man. They're going to let you know that real quick. So just keep that in mind. If you're around people who don't want to be successful, you need to find you another group of friends.
I could have said something, quite frankly, I should have said something. Now, he very well might have had other people telling him that. And maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, but at least I tried. At least I tried being a good friend. That's not something I see anymore. It's really not. Respect for one another, decency, is not something I see anymore. There's even times where I would hang out with people. You guys would be out, or we would be out at a restaurant, and one of the friends goes to the restroom or steps outside to take a phone call. And then the few minutes that they're gone, the table just starts gossiping about them. Like, are you kidding me? That's what you call a friendship? I don't think a lot of people know what a friendship really is. Friends aren't people who you just known since high school and middle school, who are going to be pushing negative influences and things on you. Like, I've known people who say, oh, go to the rave, go to the nightclub. Just like when I was in high school, all these negative things that people try to push. People want to be liked, people want to be part of the crowd, people want to be popular, so they give into that kind of stuff. But someone who is going to push, I would argue, objectively negative habits on you is not someone who is your friend, is not someone who has your best interests. They're really not. They're someone who wants to have a partner with them while they're sinking so they feel less alone. That's what I think it is. But as always, guys, I appreciate you viewing the video. I just want to say, if I think a lot of people understand what I'm talking about, you look around and just be honest with yourself. Do you think a lot of these people that people view as friends in their life are really their friends, or do you think they're just there because it's convenient at the time? Mm-hmm. Perfect example.
Yeah, back to that, that friend I had that turned enemy. It got to the point because he, always show signs of that he's not really, you know what I mean? Like, he's ashamed to hang out with me, this and that, because he's a Hispanic guy. So I know, it is what it is, bro. Like, if I was a white guy, I literally would have, they would have made one of his mom. Well, she was already trying to get me to give one of her daughters, but if I was a white guy, the whole family literally would have convinced one of their sisters to marry me. They definitely would have included me into the family. So, but as time went on, I started to notice subtle things. I'm like, you know what? I'm literally just hanging out with him because out of convenience. You know what I mean? That dude really ain't my friend like that, man. You know what I mean? Like, go out in public and hang out. He be acting kind of funny and stuff like that. So, especially if it's his other siblings, stuff like that. So it is what it is. Like, I don't feel bad for it. It's a lesson learned. But yeah, you do have a lot of people that's hanging out with other people just out of convenience. Like I tell you all the time, females don't have friends. They always at competition with each other. It's just what it is. So, I don't know. I'm in a different space now, but I'm not doing that no more. I'm not hanging out with people who just, who hating on me or whatever the case may be. So, It was good while it lasted. I'll tell you that. But at the end of the day, it's like it got to the point where okay, I know what it is, and I just kept it going. I just well, I'm just hanging out with him out of convenience, because he's easy accessible compared to me making new friends or whatever. I got lazy. I'm gonna be honest with you, but yeah, it does happen a lot. You hanging out with people like they ain't rocking with each other like that. They just doing it because it's convenient. Same thing. We see a whole bunch of females that go out. They ain't hanging out like that for real. They only out just because they out somewhere. They only hanging out together because they're out somewhere in public. But when they're not in public, they ain't hanging out with each other. So that's what it is, man. It's a lot of phoniness going on right here.
Social media, which I would even argue, right? Dating stuff has been going on for some time, but this whole thing with friendships has been really a recent phenomenon, a recent thing. With social media, the misunderstanding of what a real friend even is. Not someone who just comments under your post, likes your post, which as a friend, sure, if you're on there, you should do that. But there's a lot more to the surface level stuff in a friendship, right? Some of us might have siblings, brothers, cousins, and people like that in our lives. But someone who you're not related to, being there as someone who is a brother is a very significant thing. And it's a shame to see that a lot of people do not understand that and appreciate that. But I'll tell you something. If you have people in your life who don't understand and appreciate that, and especially like I mentioned with the story earlier, if they're actively negative and detrimental people, don't feel bad about distancing yourself from them. But as always, guys, again, appreciate you viewing. Hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, man had a lot on his mind, so he has a lot of channels. This is, pretty much the life of a man, in America or just in general. It don't really matter what country you're in, but yeah, especially nowadays, like everything's just out of control. Everything's expensive, and these jobs are firing everybody, and the pay, it's it's a lot that's going on and it helps to vent. Some people they're like, oh, I don't want to hear, but like it helps to vent. I tell people all the time, it's always you don't never know what someone's going through, so it always helps to vent. A lot of times when I talk to these people, they're like, oh, I don't want to open up to my friends and family. 'Cause I feel like I'm a burden to them. I'm like, well, you can open up to me. Open up to me because I'm not gonna make you feel like you're a burden. So a lot of times people just need somebody to talk to, man, and it's hard to come by nowadays. At least being consistent. Some people they dealing with their own issues, right? They probably have depression, low self esteem. You know what I mean? So it just helps to have a true friend group. Now some can deal with it, some can't, but that's part of you being you're having good social skills. That's showing how good of a person you are. So, but it is what it is, man. But it always helps to vent. Social media is not always a bad thing, right? But you have situations like this, like, well, I know if I tell my story or express myself, I know someone's listening, and that's all that really matters. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, what's your thoughts about this? Have you ever dealt with any friends that turn into enemies? Let me know down below, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and donate something to my Cash App. I would definitely appreciate you. And yeah, until next time.